Wanda. Wanda.
I don't know how any of this started.
What is outside of Westview?
Jack, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really enjoying WandaVision at IGN. That's all anybody's talking about. So far, this is it's an awesome show. Thank you for making time.
Oh, thank you.
Wanted to start with a question about Westview. Now, there's kind of two schools of thought at IGN. People who think that Westview doesn't actually exist, and others believe that Wanda is simply making certain people forget about Westview, like the police officer. So we're just trying to see what is the correct interpretation of that, or is that meant to be left ambiguous?
I think that I want you guys to keep duking it out on that question, and it will be answered for you.
Now, real quick, Darcy Lewis, Agent Jimmy Woo, and Monica Rambeau all have ties to earlier phases of the MCU. Why is WandaVision the right project to have all three characters come back?
It's a really good question. I mean, there's sort of like a kismet quality to this show and how it came together, and I think that I just feel like I was just lucky that I was given this group of characters. Darcy and Jimmy were suggestions early on, and I thought, absolutely, let's find a way to to get them involved. And then Monica was a sort of later discovery. Both the producer Mary Lavanos and I had worked on Captain Marvel, and thought that involving a grown-up version of Monica Rambeau in this show would be fantastic.
Can viewers expect more MCU faces, more MCU characters, even ones that aren't superheroes like Darcy and Jimmy to pop up as we go forward?
You never know what you're going to see on WandaVision. So yeah, keep watching for more surprises.
Now, why was it important to revisit the blip and the return of all those people who had been snapped away by Thanos?
Yeah, well, so it was always the design that we would have an episode like episode 4 that sort of stepped out of what we had been seeing and gave us a lot more context. So first, we needed to answer the question of where are we in the MCU timeline, and then second, it was important to establish a wildly different tone, and this seemed like dropping us right into a returning moment would certainly satisfy that, especially setting it at a hospital. But the number one priority was setting up Monica and her character, and we thought seeing this moment of crisis and trauma for her would give audiences an immediate understanding of who she is as a person and what she's grappling with.
And she's a character who's obviously brushed up against the Fantastic earlier in her life. Can you talk at all about the significance of the blip for Monica and like how that's going to play out as we go forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's such a special character because, as you say, because of her perspective, because she saw so many truths of the universe before even some of our Avengers and people that characters that we look to as being sort of like the backbone of the MCU thus far, but she's lived her whole life knowing that there are other worlds out there and other entities. So I think that for her character, what I really think it affords her is an enormous empathy and an ability to see conflicts, especially from all sides.
Shifting gears a little bit, can you talk about the significance and the importance of why did you choose to set WandaVision as we know it in these different eras of American TV as opposed to like doing, say, like just a 1960s kind of focus story? Why the hopping around? Why is that significant?
That was part of Kevin's original notion of the project. So I actually don't know. I don't really know what his answer would be. I mean, for me, it's a couple reasons. First, it's that there is such a wealth of incredible sitcom content over the years, and it's really fascinating to look at how it changes through the eras. And I also think it's about sort of interest and audience engagement. I think it would have been a little. I think it would have been less interesting if we had just sort of stuck on the same set in 1950s black and white. I think Marvel thinks big, and part of the bigness of this show is that we do it all. We go to all the different sets and all the different eras.
Now, speaking of that, can you talk a little bit about what sitcoms did you binge to get ready to write this project?
I mean, so many of them. There wasn't time to watch a million episodes all the way through. It was a lot of watching clips, really, and it was with the writers in the writers' room. It was often, our discussions would lead us in a direction, and someone would say, oh, it's like that, that scene or that episode or whatever, and we would like pull it up on YouTube and all watch it together. It was a lot of that kind of thing. And then when the episodes were assigned to the different writers, each writer was responsible for becoming an expert on that era.
Now, the Easter eggs, at least for IGN viewers, have been a lot of fun, like just being able to go through each episode and kind of scour and look for things that we've seen before or we recognize. Reddit has been keeping track of the tiniest Easter eggs in the show, down to the animations and the intro, wallpaper designs. Is it safe to say that pretty much everything in Wanda's world is either influenced by the comics or what we've seen before already in the MCU?
No.
Are there any major Easter eggs that are in there that people haven't found yet? Like, is there stuff that just buried really deep that we're not going to be able to find, or it will be like?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that people couldn't possibly understand without knowing the full picture.
When you're planning a series like this, and obviously trying to jam pack full of these kinds of things, is that part of it? Is just trying to like give people kind of a bait and switch and like not knowing what to look for next? How important are these Easter eggs when you're planning something like this?
Well, so the smaller Easter eggs are less vital to the big conversation. Like some of the smaller Easter eggs are just things that happen later in the game and were fun, or they're other departments. It's it's props, it's wardrobe, it's production design, it's like all of those artists being good at their jobs and finding opportunities to drop things in. And then it's also Marvel, like they get really in deep with all of that stuff. The Easter eggs that my team and I worked on in the writers' room, and then later in production in collaboration with Matt, they're mostly bigger things. Those are the ones that it's story structure. It's the basics of putting a mystery together. So there are red herrings, and like any good story. But I like the fan engagement on the minutia of the details. Oh, so great.
Super fun. Jac, thank you so much. We're loving the series. Thank you, Mike, for your time. That's my time. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.